This is our last 2023 vid. It will excite your taste buds and leave you salivating for more in 2024.
All Marron vary a little bit in colour.
So you're approving?
Yes.
Rusty, Axel, what have you done?
Hey!
In this episode, we leave the Esperance area and head towards Perth for Christmas. En route, we stop in at Starvation Bay, which is the start of the rabbit-proof fence, up to Ravensthorpe for a kilo of lollies. And then we head down to Shane's Beach, which is just a beautiful surf beach just east of Albany. After that, we then make our way to our final big destination for 2023, and we spend some time at Ridge Marron and Trout and learn all about the process of marron and smoked trout to the restaurant table, and then finally make our way up to Perth for Christmas and a 5-week break. Starvation Bay marks the beginning of rabbit-proof fence number 1, or what is now known as the State Barrier Fence, built between 1901 and 1907, runs for a distance of 1,833 kilometres and designed to keep rabbits out of the agricultural areas of WA.
Go to town.
Not too many, just a couple, because I don't know if you even like tea. That's it, one.
Alright, so we've stopped to stretch our legs in Ravensthorpe, and I tell you what, when you're in town you got to go to the big lollipop. Look at that, got a kilo's worth of bloody lollies there. Okay, so we are in Manjimup, which is in Western Australia's southwest, about 4 hours south of Perth. We're going to be here for about a week and having a look around. And Manjimup's well known for its produce, so naturally timber, which is typical of the southwest area, particularly to the north, Bridgetown, and to the south, Pemberton. but you've also got other produce like cherries, avocados, plums.
Lots of fresh produce.
So it's a known farming produce area, and obviously some friendly flies. But it's also well known for...
It's a bit of a secret. When we were at Carnegie Station, we were invited to this special place, and we're super excited to be here in Manjimup to visit them for a week. So stay tuned.
Won't tell you too much, just a bit of a hint. Marron and trout. Rising from the Karri Forest is the Yugarup Sand Dunes, the largest landlocked mobile dune system in the southern hemisphere. The sand dunes are about 20 kilometres southwest of Pemberton and are an odd sight when you first come upon them, rising up to 40 metres above otherwise normal forest. They form a 10 kilometre long body of sand which is being blown inland, swallowing the forest at a rate of about 4 metres each year. Slow but unstoppable. We take Beast up onto these sand dunes and check them out, make sure the PSI is down to about 20, and we just send it. Alright, so we're at the Manjimup Heritage Park, which has the information centre and of course a coffee shop, so we've stopped in for coffee and that first to work out our plan of attack. But the Heritage Park, whilst it is a park with picnic facilities, tables, barbecues and the like, it also has a couple of museums. It's got an electricity museum, the State Timber Museum, obviously the information centres here, it's got a children's playground area, there's rail relics, there's an old pioneer town, some old pioneer buildings, so it's well worth a visit. Most of the activities down here are free. Obviously you pay a small fee to go into the museums, but hey, what a great day out.
And so it's pet friendly.
And it's pet friendly, so
puppies are under the table.
Pups are under the table there somewhere. Come to the park, every kid has to go down the slide, and that's what I'm doing.
Welcome to Blue Ridge Marron.
And trout.
And trout. So excited.
Yeah, so we're going to spend a few days with these guys. They're going to show us the processes with marron and trout, pretty much from pond to transport. So it's going to be pretty cool.
Certainly is. Now, with our little bit of research, these guys produce 25% global market of the black marron and 50% of the electric blue cobalt marron.
That electric blue is spectacular.
Yeah, can't wait to see one in person.
And also trout.
And also trout, seeing
Yeah,
it being smoked.
Yep. And what, you want to drop some names?
Few name bombs. Okay, so these guys have been on Paddock to Plate with Matt Moran. They also supply to Peter Gilmore, all over Asia, top restaurants. So it's pretty impressive and looking forward to learning more.
It is. So we're going to show you the process. We're going to take you along for the journey. It is going to be pretty cool. I think tomorrow they're actually fishing some of the big trout out of the ponds to ready for processing. So smoking and all that sort of stuff. I've got the fishing rod there. We've been here a whole week at Blue Ridge Marron and Trout, and now we're going to have a chat to the guys, both Steve Vidovich and Peter McGinty, about the business, about the product of marron and trout, and just get some insight into it for our followers. So I'm sitting here with Steve Vidovich, and we're going to chat about the marron side of the business. So Steve, do you want to give us a bit of an insight first about who you are, what your background is, what brought you to marron farming?
So basically, Mike, I am a city boy originally. Grew up in Perth. Had to spend a bit of time on farms during my growing up, and met Peter at university, both studying aquaculture up there. He had a bit of a grand plan for how he wanted to diversify out of horticulture and get into marron farming. And basically once we finished our degrees, moved down here and took up originally with the plan to focus more on production of marron, but also one thing led to another, and we ended up getting entangled in the wholesale side.
So Blue Ridge Marron, how long's the business been operating?
Pretty well about on smack on 20 years.
And has it been a long path to growth, or has it been a product that's been fairly consistent?
Look, it's always a bit of a long steady process. Yeah, they're not an easy beast to grow. There's a lot of demand out there for it, but not always the easiest thing for people to produce. So there's often people coming into the industry, getting out of the industry. All the while, we're trying to meet demand from a fairly discerning clientele, and some of the best restaurants in the country, if not the world, want to put marron on the menu. They have got to have what they want week in, week out. So I guess we're the meat and the sandwich, I suppose. We work really closely with our suppliers and producers, trying to balance that demand with supply. To make sure we've always got product here to offer our customers.
Yeah, so let's talk about marron. Now, what's the marron? My understanding is essentially a freshwater crayfish.
Correct. Yep.
Distinctions between them, size-wise, between say yabby versus a marron versus a lobster crayfish.
So basically, you hit the nail on the head. So freshwater crayfish, and technically speaking, anything that comes out of freshwater is a crayfish. So the term that we use in Australia, connecting crayfish with marine lobsters, is actually a bit of a misnomer.
Right.
Technically, anything that comes out of the ocean is a lobster. regardless of whether it has claws, no claws, spines, no spines, whatever. So they're the largest commercially available freshwater crayfish in the world. Obviously they grow quite a lot bigger than yabbies, but they're also not a burrowing species of crayfish, so they, as much as it can be purged out of them, they're not a muddy sort of creature at all. They do thrive in fairly clean, fast flowing, pristine waters. So they come out, you can eat them. We've had some of the best chefs in the world taste marron out of our purging tanks, straight out of the creek system here, and tell us that there's not a lot of difference in flavour between one that's straight out of essentially the wild or farmed purged animal.
Speaking of those, do you want to drop some names for us?
Yeah, sure. We've had through the years Peter Gilmore, Rene Redzepi, Matt Moran, a lot of the big name chefs, Shannon Bennett, Neil Perry have all passed through the farm at one stage or another on a trip around the countryside, wanted to see the source of one of their favourite products.
So in terms of production, world or global production, how much marron is actually out there versus how much do you guys actually provide to the market?
Yeah, look, we handle about 15 to 20 tonne a year, which is probably about a third or so of the state's production. Figures WA is the biggest producer of marron in the world, but it is a very small industry. The current figures probably put the state's production between 50 and 60 tonne. There's potentially another 5 to 10 to 15 comes out of South Australia. A lot of that is sort of essentially wild product off Kangaroo Island. It's a significant amount of, it's a rare protein, it's a rare seafood, and we handle a reasonable quantity of it.
So why would a major restaurant put marron on the menu as opposed to lobster?
I guess we're catering to people that want something that is particularly special, particularly unique. It's a native food to Australia. A lot of marron do end up in big name restaurants in Sydney and Melbourne, where they're the go-to restaurants in the country where people come to Australia as a culinary destination and want to try something totally unique that they can't get anywhere else in the world. Then we like to think that as long as we can keep supply up to them, it's a very unique experience, I suppose, because as much as we do export a little bit of marron. The global trend in dining is promoting what's local, what's grown locally, what is native produce. So a lot of chefs don't necessarily want a marron or a crayfish or a piece of protein that's been shipped halfway around the world. So it is, in some ways, it's a native food that's available really only in Australia. A lot of times.
That whole paddock to plate idea or scenario has really taken off over the years. So let's talk about the production now. Obviously, you've got a number of ponds out the back here.
Yep.
Once they're in the ponds, you're just maintaining them, just feeding them and oxygenating them, and
feed them 5 or 6 days a week. They get everything laid on for them in the ponds. Feed, obviously, protection from predators. Everything loves to eat marron, be they 2-legged, 4-legged, winged creatures.
Yep.
So they get protection from predators, aeration, and stocked into the ponds once a year, and basically drained down once a year so we can manage the stock, remove those stock that are of a saleable size or can be selected for future breeding, and move the stock around, manage what's in the pond, harvest some, sell some off, continue the breeding program, so on and so forth.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So further to that point, we do source product from a couple of different styles of production. So we have people who harvest marron from purpose-built ponds, which typically get drained down and sorted out in the winter time when the marron are molting far less frequently. So there's a lot less stress on the marron when everything's colder during the winter months. And then in the summertime, we source most of our product from people trapping ponds, dams, some dams that are just irrigation dams with essentially what is a wild stock or wild population of marron, but still on private property, and anywhere in between. Some people do build purpose-built dams for the purpose of growing and trapping out marron during that summertime period.
Because marron's basically endemic to the southwest region of Western Australia, isn't it?
Yep.
So pretty much.
Pretty much. Its original distribution probably limited to 5 or 6 main river systems throughout the southwest of WA.
Yep.
Obviously, it extends a lot further these days across other parts of Australia and the world, I guess. So but it's something that's very unique to this corner of the earth.
So, as a percentage, what are you producing versus what are you buying from other growers?
Oh, we probably still outsource about 80% of what we sell.
Yeah. And then so that's then allowed you to develop that the retail, the sales side of that.
I mean, it's a very tricky product because you never know exactly what you're going to have to sell until it's staring in the face, basically. It's not like a piece of fruit ripening on a tree or that you can sort of it's not easy to forecast what is going to be available, so that's why we need to pool our resources as a group of producers and satisfy demand that way.
So in terms of production for sale,
Yep.
What sort of sizes are we talking is the norm?
Look, the most popular size particularly for the restaurant trade is sort of 150, 200 grams and upwards. We do sell smaller than that, 70 to 100 grams, 100 to 150, and it's really just the nature of the beast that governs that. Marron grow with an inherent amount of variability, which makes life a bit difficult at times. You can put a marron into a pond that's 2 inches long. Next year, some of them will be 3 inches long. Some of them will be, 6 inches long.
Yeah, so on and so forth.
So the reason why we sell a big range is basically to be able to cater for that variation. Gives our growers a chance to be able to sell an entire harvest, and not be forever putting marron back in ponds. And it does chop and change from time to time. We went through a big through the sort of early 2000s when degustation dining was all the craze, where people sitting down to a 10 or 12 course meal, and chefs quite often only wanted something less than 200 grams to put a taster on a plate. Whereas now we've sort of come back around more to the a la carte style, and like every other industry, labour's a factor. So people do lean towards more a single marron that's a little bit bigger, rather than having to process 2 smaller ones, for example.
Well, I reckon that just about gives us enough info about marron. I'll have to go and do a bit more research myself, but I'll tell you what, this week with you guys, I've absolutely learnt so much. Really appreciate the opportunity to get out and learn a bit of aquaculture and Marron, and we'll be talking to Pete soon about the trout side of this business. Steve?
Been great, Mike. Been a pleasure.
Thanks very much.
Might be a Marron farm, but there's always farm work, like fencing, to be done.
Firstly, I want to say thanks to Pete. We met him up at Carnegie Station, and either he invited us or we invited ourselves down to check out the aquaculture business as part of our City Slickers Goes Farming venture. So we've been here parked up on Pete's beautiful property for a week, whilst we've actually been getting involved in and witnessing and watching and just seeing the whole ins and outs. Pete, thanks very much.
Pleasure.
So, who is Pete McGinty? Tell me about what brought you into the Marron and trout business. Now, I should point out that we've already spoken to Steve, and he chose to chat about the Marron side of the business. So, for the most part, I'm actually going to get you to talk about the trout side of the business and how that came out. But let's talk generally first.
Sure.
How did you get yourself into this?
Into aquaculture, well, I moved down to this farm when I was 18, or bought this farm when I was 18 or 19, and grew veggies here, and then followed up with cherries, did cherries for a lot of years. And then cherries were really good because at the time they were a prohibited import into Western Australia. Cherries had to be grown in Western Australia because of a certain disease called brown rot. In 1997, they found brown rot in Western Australia and lifted the quarantine barriers on the importation, not just from the eastern states, but also from overseas. So we now get American cherries off season and all that type of thing. So I thought, this isn't any good. I've got to get out of this game and get into something else. So looked around, and Marron are endemic to this part of the world. They're native to the southwest corner of WA. And I thought, well, why don't we have a crack at that? So in 97, I built the first 4 ponds across the road and stocked them with Marron and everything else. Then I realised I just didn't have the technical expertise to progress to where I wanted. So in 2000, I re-enrolled at Curtin University in Perth and spent 3 years up there studying aquaculture and seafood science. And that's where I met Steve.
Yeah.
He's probably already told you that too.
Yep, we had that part of the conversation, and that's really cool. And the dynamic of the two of you actually works really well. I've seen this week. Steve's pretty chilled and laid back. You not so much. No,
no, that's true.
But it actually works really well. You both get in. You obviously like to do the marketing side of the business. Steve, loves the farming aspect and speaking to the growers and the like. So it was really cool to get Steve's perspective of the business and talk about Marron and that as well. Let's talk about the trout side of it. Now, Steve was saying that the Marron side of your business has been pretty much 20 years or thereabouts.
Yep, 20 plus years. Yep, that's right.
Not so much the trout side of the business.
Not the trout side. No.
So tell us about how that came about.
Yep. So about 17 years ago, we started getting inquiries from chefs in Perth going, do you know where we can get fresh rainbow trout from? Because we're currently buying it from Victoria. It's frozen. It's been trucked across the Nullarbor, huge carbon footprint, and we'd like to buy a local product. So we thought, well, we've got the expertise. Why don't we branch it out into trout? So yeah, probably about 17 years ago we started. And it's progressed since then, and each year we come up with new and dumber ideas. So who knows what's on the plate?
So as you'll see in the footage, smoked trout, and they go through a process, which we'll talk about in a moment, cryovac the product and send it out. So the business of Blue Ridge Marron and Trout is almost predominantly pond to plate. It's almost got all of that aspect covered now, which is great. Tell us about the smoking process.
Yep. So what we did when we've been supplying. Actually, if I could, I'll just go back a little bit. So 15 years ago, we started buying fry at 2 grams from the fisheries department in Pemberton and bringing them here and growing them out in our dams and selling chilled, fresh, gilled and gutted rainbow trout.
Right. Okay.
And about 15 years ago, we thought, why don't we start smoking some? And so we got a recreational smoker and started smoking some and have been playing with it for about the past 15 years.
And that's not rollies with funny tobacco or anything like that. This is smoked trout for eating purposes.
That's it. So there was another smoking business in town that was very well set up, and he decided to sell out and move to Perth. So this was only 2 years ago. So we bought his stuff and thought, well, time we did it on a commercial basis. So had to go through all the paperwork side of things to get registered and all that sort of stuff. And we picked up all his second-hand gear, including the smoker, and it's been building year from year to year. We sell more and more each year. So, but only 2 years into commercial production, though.
So the Marron are out in the ponds.
Yep.
You've got bigger trout out in a couple of bigger ponds out there, and then you've got all your smaller trout in what are effectively swimming pool tanks in one of your sheds.
Yep, that's the nursery.
Yep. So how does that work?
Okay, so what happened some time back, we were putting the 2 gram trout fry into our big dams and growing them out from there. But unfortunately, the dams became impregnated with a non-native, very aggressive fish called redfin perch. And it's an introduced species. It's also called Eurasian perch, came from Europe. And what was happening is we were putting the small trout fry in a corner of the dam and putting a seine net so that the redfin couldn't get in, and we were growing them out, because then you only have to feed a small area, not the whole dam, till they get big enough, and then when they were big enough, we'd pull the net out and off they'd go. But the redfin perch got smart about this, and they ended up burrowing under the seine net and getting inside, and we lost a whole year's production because of it. Yeah, it's pretty severe. 4 weeks, 10,000 fish dead. Oh, not dead, eaten.
Yeah, eaten. Yeah, incredible. So so you've moved them into the nursery inside.
Yep.
And you're running the tanks, which you'll see in the footage.
Yep.
At what point do you move them out of the nursery tanks into the dam?
Good. That's a really good question. When we started doing it a few years back, we decided that we would try and grow the trout so that they were too big for the redfin gape, so that the redfin couldn't predate on them. But we also had to be considerate of the fact that after Christmas, water temperatures start getting very, very high down here. Trout die when the water temperature gets to 24 degrees. and we were getting 24 degrees consistently, and that becomes a problem. So we decided we would grow them up till just before Christmas. We put them out in the big dams. That way they have the ability to dive deep and get the cooler water.
Right.
And we've now oxygenated all our big dams as well, so they can swim around at 6 metres, 7 metres deep, and there's plenty of oxygen down there.
Yeah, excellent. So the process of smoking them once you're so you obviously they go out into the dams, they grow to a nice usable size.
Yep.
Which incidentally, what sort of roughly are we talking about weight wise before they go into the smokers?
Yep. So we can grow trout at a rate of around about 1.2 kilos per year. So we buy they hatch in August, and we can probably start selling plate-sized fish the following May. But as the dams become, as we start fishing and emptying the dams a little bit, you get what's called growth density factor. So you thin them out, and the fish grow a lot quicker.
Right. Yeah.
So, and it's like that with any vegetable or fruit or anything. If you plant too close together, they don't do well. And once you thin them out, you get a better product.
Yeah. So you'll see in the footage, Sam chats to Pete about the actual smoking process when using applewood chips.
That's right.
Yep. And runs through that. So you'll see that in the footage as well. So the smoked trout aspect of your business. Let's throw a percentage out there. How much of your business is focused on, or not necessarily focused? Currently, how much of your business is actually Marron based versus your trout base? What's your sort of split there?
The trout are still small scale. Excuse the pun. It's increasing every year. But why we decided to go commercially into trout smoking was because when we catch the trout, we use a gill net, and that once the fish go into a gill net, you can't release them.
Yep.
They're done. So we had to sort of think, well, if we overcatch by 5-10 kilos, we need to be able to do something with that product, and that's encourages to move on the smoking side of things.
Yeah, so what we're talking about here is that you'll get an order for fresh trout.
Yep.
And so you'll fish for that to suit that order.
That's
so
right.
It's nice and fresh, ready to go. And we should point out that if an order is being filled today and it's going to, say, Sydney, when's it landing in the restaurant?
Well, we actually don't send the trout east. We only on the West Australian market, purely because the scale of things. We do it small scale, and we supply pretty much the next day. It's swimming around the dam one day, and the next day it's at the restaurant.
Okay, so that's the next day. So and that's West Australian market with the trout.
That's correct.
That's different to your Marron, though, isn't it?
That's right. The Marron, pretty much the same thing. They can be in our tanks on a Monday, and they'll be in Sydney, Melbourne, or Brisbane on Tuesday.
Yeah,
lunchtime.
And that's mainly your sort of baby as part of the business. Is that looking after the transportation side of it?
Yeah, doing the paperwork side of things and all that sort of stuff. And we also export up to a lot into Singapore, and we send the trout up there as well. So it's been good. Yeah.
So it's actually been quite fascinating seeing the packing of the product and the shipping. Aussie Post finally actually do a pretty good job.
They do. With Australia Post, it took a few years, but they actually understand now that we've got a perishable product. They were going to probably about 5 years ago, they were going to stop handling perishable products. And that would have been a disaster because we don't have options in the country. Australia Post is our only courier that has the distribution network big enough to be able to do what we need to happen. So.
The Marron are live export or live transportation, so which is a pretty important point. So basically, when they're packed up, they're made nice and comfortable, sent off with Australia Post, and as quickly as possible they make their way to the restaurants and all the aquariums. Now, I bring this one up, and I've actually failed to. So this is a mistake on my part because I forgot to discuss this with Steve. So you get to talk about the blue marron or the electric blue marron.
Yep.
So tell us about those.
Well, Steve probably mentioned to you that the smooth marron, the black marron, is the world production of that is less than 80 tonnes a year, and 60 tonnes of that is grown in Western Australia. So the black marron is a fairly small cottage industry, I suppose you might call it. The electric blue marron is the world production of electric blue marron is probably less than about 1 to 1.5 tonnes a year, and we grow about 500 kilos of that on the property. And that one is aimed at the aquarium trade. Yeah,
and when we say electric blue marron, we are talking electric blue marron. These things are spectacular. We'll show some pictures of these as well, and I can see why they would be well regarded for the aquarium trade. Now, that aquarium trade's not just in Australia either, is it?
No, it's all around the world. But we supply the aquarium supply people, the retailers. So if we export black or blue marron, we've got minimum export shipments of 40 kilos, so it's quite a lot to handle. But we don't really want to be sending one or two to some remote place in the world. The amount of paperwork and everything else, and you spend all your time following all that up to make sure nothing goes wrong.
Yeah, absolutely well worth a visit if you get the opportunity to check out all different types of farming. Aquaculture, marron and trout has been a wonderful experience this week. So we are in Manjimup, or just outside Manjimup, Yanmar to be precise. Just outside Manjimup in Western Australia's southwest, just south of Perth, and the whole area actually is pretty much primary production, isn't it?
Yeah,
with varying degrees and varying options. It's whether it's fruit, vegetables, cattle, sheep, aquaculture. It's quite incredible, isn't it?
That's right. It's very diverse. It's once you come out of the wheat belt and into this part of the world, it's just 100% different.
Yeah, that's very different. So we'll hope to show you around, guys. Thanks for watching. Once again, thanks, Pete.
Cheers.
It's been an absolute pleasure. And Blue Ridge, Marron and Trout, put it on your table for Christmas. See ya.
Okay, Peter, please tell me how the smoking process goes.
Sure. So as you saw yesterday, we caught the fish, gilled and gutted the fish.
Yes.
Once they were gilled and gutted, we put them into a sugar salt brine solution and left them overnight at 2 degrees in the cool room, just to take in all the brine. This morning we stacked them on the rack and started the smoker to go through the process.
Nice.
So the first step of the process is the smoker will take the fish from 2 degrees up to 40 degrees in a 45-minute period.
Yes.
And that opens up the cell structure on the fish ready for the absorption of the smoke. Once that's complete, it then goes on to the smoking cycle, which is a 3-hour process. And so the smoke generator will start, which you had a look at before. That will create the smoke. The smoke will be pushed into the smoker, and for 3 hours, only taking it up to 60 degrees, so still not cooking it. It'll get absorb all the smoke flavours. At the end of the 3 hours, it then goes into the cooking mode, and it will take it up to 68 degrees and hold it there for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes of cooking it at 68 degrees, it will turn off, and the fish will be cooked. Ready.
It's only a short cooking process, isn't it?
It's very short, yeah. If you do it too long, it dries them out too much. So you still want to maintain the moisture. And then once it is cooked, then it's important to bring it down very rapidly. Bring the temperature down. So we have to abide by certain standards, and the standards tell us to bring it down to below 21 degrees in the first 2 hours and below 5 degrees by 4 hours.
I guess that would close all the cells again. You know, we've opened them up, so it's closing them to trap all that smoke and flavour.
Trap that in, and also stop bacteria from easily accessing the protein.
once it's down, we take it into, and then we go through the vacuum process. We put it through the vacuum machine and seal it off. And it's
Ready for processing. Well, not ready for eating.
ready for eating.
What a fantastic morning. In the footage you will have seen that we've caught the trout from the dams. They've been thrown on ice straight away. They've then been cleaned up, gilled and gutted. In the freezer or in the fridge straight away. Keep everything cold. And then packed. So lucky restaurants, they will have those first thing in the morning, if not by tonight. So you can't get much fresher than that. Less than a 12-hour turnaround. Loving it here.
Guys, thanks for watching what is essentially the last video for our 2023 adventures, and we hope you enjoyed that one. From this point, we actually spent about 5 weeks in Perth over Christmas, New Year with family and friends, took a bit of a break, and then we continued into 2024, and obviously those adventures we've already started, and those videos will be coming out shortly. In the meantime, Sam and I, and obviously the puppies, thank you for all your support over 2023. It's just been spectacular. We've had people that have recognised us on the street come up and say hello. We've had spottos come through on our social medias. We've got people to thank, so many people to thank, that have made the 2023 the year that it was, particularly those over at Carnegie Station, Blue Ridge Marron and Trout, Tanya and Paul down at the Grain Harvest Farm in Grass Patch, our family and friends over Christmas that looked after us. So there's so many people we can thank and really appreciate it. We did a 2023 summary, questions and answers questions that you provided. We've done that, put those last 2 videos up last week, I think it was. Have a look over those. If you've got any more questions or if you've got any input into what we can do to improve, places you'd like us to try and visit, put those in the comments below. 2024 we're going to change things up a little bit. We've got some friends traveling with us. We are going to different places yet again, and hopefully you'll follow along with that journey for us. But probably only one more thing, guys. I know that ads can be annoying, but Google does put small short ads, only 30 seconds, 1 minute. If you can let those run through, we get paid a handful of dollars, which will help fund Sam's coffee addiction. Short of that, guys, thanks again. Massive support. We are very humbled by it. As Sam says, stay curious, stay adventurous, and keep on exploring.